School doesn't teach you about sex, it doesn't teach you about taxes, it doesn't teach you about communication. It might even teach you some things that you should do the opposite of in your later life, especially as an entrepreneur. In this episode, I'm diving deep into the life and business skills you didn't learn in school, and I also didn't learn in school, but that I learned later on in life, and I'm gonna share some unpleasant thoughts with you. Hello, and welcome to the Fast Forward Amy show, the show where we lift your life and business with simple strategies. I'm Fast Forward Amy, your host and coach, and I'll bring you a new episode every Tuesday. We spent quite some time of our lives going to school, and it was not my favorite time of my life. And I still haven't gotten to the point where I can say, oh, university was a good idea or a bad idea. I'm going to leave that for later. But if I look back on my actual school time, let's say from, I don't know, when you're 5 years old until you're 18, which is, I think in the US, that's like high school and stuff like that. In Belgium, we go to one school until we're 11, 12, and then the next school from the moment we're 12 until we're 18. And from the moment we are 12 until 18, we learn a bunch of stuff. If you're Dutch speaking like me, you also learned French at school. Fun fact, the people who speak French don't have to learn Dutch. Don't know how fair that is, but okay. I'm guessing many more people speak French than Dutch, and it's not deemed useful to learn Dutch. Advantage for Dutch-speaking people is that we are used to always accommodating different languages. So I actually speak quite some languages. I learned French at school. English I actually learned from television, but also had that at school. Later on in university, I had Spanish and German. So I really love languages, but it's not thanks to school that I learned many of them. The French was useful. But if I look back at what I learned at school, I learned a bunch of things that really give me nothing right now, because I didn't learn about taxes. I didn't learn about money. I learned to count with apples and pears, but not with money. And I'm always thinking about this, like, why don't we learn how to count with money or like Monopoly money? Because that would be great for kids, no? That you actually learn. They're like, yes, add 5 plus 5, but why not 5 euros plus 5 euros? Much more useful. Sometimes they do this, but more often than not, all of the stuff we learn in school is very, very general and not necessarily useful for later on in life. We barely learn anything about communication and relationships. We don't learn a lot about money, about health, but we do learn things, for example, some geography things. I've forgotten almost everything I've learned at school, which brings to mind a certain question like, is it useful to go to school, or could we have made it more useful? And I think there are a bunch of life and business skills I didn't learn at school that I ended up teaching myself or learning from, books and gurus. And I thought to share a couple of those with you today. So let's start with the first skill I did not learn at school, but I learned from working in my business, namely working in your zone of genius. Lately, I've made a couple of adjustments in my company, and I have gotten back to the point where I'm working more and more in my zone of genius. My energy has gone up. I hit a little bit of a standstill because if you don't know who I am, my name is Amy, and I run a 7-figure business. My business has done more than $1 million every year for the past couple of years, and a few years ago I was working fully by myself, and in a period of 3 years I grew immensely, and now I have 9 people on board full-time in both of my businesses. So I have my own business, which is a 7-figure business, 8 people working for me full-time. Then I have my second business, Alpha Women, which is the largest Dutch-speaking community of female entrepreneurs in Belgium and maybe also the Netherlands. Don't know about that. Run that with my best friend. And then I have another brand. It's not necessarily business. It's another brand with my dad, actually. I produce his podcast, and we are working on a bunch of stuff together. So throughout all of that, turns out at a certain point I kind of lost myself, and I was doing a bunch of stuff, and I was like, wow, my energy is so low. And I discovered that a big part of that had to do with the fact that I was not working in my zone of genius. My zone of genius for me means strategy, creative stuff, creating content, impacting people. My zone of genius is not waking up at 8 o'clock, sitting at my desk at 9 and answering emails all day long. Not that I was doing that, but I did notice that I was doing a lot of things that weren't necessarily what lit me up on fire. And thankfully, throughout the past couple of years, I have learned a lot about myself. For example, what is my DISC profile? What are my love languages? And I've learned to incorporate these different things into my days, and I've gotten back to working more in my zone of genius and really minimizing the stuff I don't like. But what do you get taught at school? At school, they teach you to do everything, get good at everything. You have to do biology and mathematics and languages and what is it called? PE. I was terrible at it. I still remember my very last day of high school where I was not necessarily so happy that school was ending. I absolutely hated school. But I was just so happy. It was my last class of PE ever. A couple of years after that, I became a fitness coach. Also because in PE, that's how you say it, right? PE? Yeah. We had to do everything. We had to run every year, more running, more running. I was terrible at running, yet I was held to the same standard as other people, and I had to run despite the fact that I had a muscle disease. We had to do gymnastics. I was good at that. We had to do, stuff that looked like bowling, jumping, all kinds of sports. I hated so many of them, but everyone had to do the same things, which is literally the exact opposite of what I teach in business coaching, namely that we need to get your energy up because you need to do stuff that you are good at. That's your zone of genius, and you should outsource or minimize the things that you're not good at. So when we're in school, we get taught this thing that like, oh, you have weaknesses, let's improve those weaknesses. Whereas when you're in business, definitely be mindful of weaknesses, but it's much better to build on your strengths. So for example, I'm fairly good at talking. I built on that strength. When I was little, my mom used to laugh. At one point, she went to the doctor, and she has an appointment for me, and it was partly about something else, and also because I was talking all the time. And she literally asked the doctor, from the moment she wakes up until the moment she goes to sleep, she is talking. Is there anything we can do about that? I turned that into my job. If my parents would have discouraged me from talking and from developing, communicative skills and languages, I probably wouldn't have a podcast right now. But my podcast is one of the biggest marketing components of my business. So in school, they teach you, get good at everything, work on your weaknesses. In business, what I teach is, get even better at the thing you're already good at. Don't ignore your weaknesses, but maybe have someone else pick those up and make sure that you're actually doing a thing that lights your heart or your soul on fire, that really makes you so, so, so happy, and that can also bring you cash. So that's one. Working your zone of genius is not something they teach you at school. The second thing they don't teach you is to set boundaries, because in school you have to follow what everyone says you need to do. You have to go there from 8:30 until 4 o'clock. You have to sit down, stand up, color between the lines, don't make any mistakes. If they give you assignments to take home with you and it's the very last day and all of a sudden you have 5 assignments more, you're not allowed to tell your teacher, hello, we already had a lot of assignments. No, you're supposed to suck it up and do it. At least that's what I learned at the school I went to. And one of the things they used to say is, if you have questions, make sure you ask them now, because in the next phase, for example, when you go to high school, you won't be able to ask them anymore. And then in high school, they said, if you have questions, make sure you ask them now, because in university, you won't be able to ask questions anymore. Don't ask for help is kind of what they said. You know what? You can always ask for help. When I was in high school, I still asked questions. When I was in university, I was the only idiot with their hand up like, hello, I have a question about this. And one of the things that they don't teach you is the boundaries, because you're supposed to just accept as a kid and be like, okay, I'll follow the rules. Which in a later life, for example, when you're a freelancer and you're working for clients, means that you will probably just accept whatever people ask from you, because that's what you were taught as a kid. Shut up, stand in line, follow what we say, be here on time, not a minute later. I love punctuality though, so I'm not saying stop doing that, but you learn to not have any boundaries, but to fully just accommodate other people. And that might be one of the reasons why you are such a people pleaser. The other thing I said about the not asking for help is actually another one I wrote down. It was not one of the bullets we wrote down. I'm turning it into another tip. Haha. At Megan the copywriter. These are 6 tips now. She's looking at me like, So, new setup for the podcast. We are currently knees deep into thinking, should we rename the podcast? We're probably renaming it. Maybe by the time this episode has aired, we've already changed everything. I've been talking about this for a while, so if you listen to every episode, this is not a surprise, but I wanna make it more sexy. I want some episodes to be really like, hello, 5 tips, haha, make more sales. Other episodes might be more mindset, bonus episodes. I want to invite some guests to talk about how they've been playing to win in their life, stuff like that. So today we are batch recording podcast. So this is episode 182. I'm fairly proud of that. I remember thinking, wow, 100 episodes is going to take me so long. And now we have 182 episodes. How crazy is that? I remember my mom asking me, how long are you going to do this podcast thing? You know, because it's for free. How long are you going to do this? And I'm like, indefinitely, forever and ever. Love you, Mom. The only reason I get to batch this podcast is also because I asked my mom for help because I'm selling my previous car. My Fiat, it's in the basement right now. She's taking it out for, I don't know what it's called, but like to get it tested so I can actually sell it. And I think this had to do with the whole asking for help. I am a multi-million-dollar business owner. And I still ask my boyfriend to open some jars for me. And I ask my mom for help when I feel overwhelmed or I can't figure out how to make soup. Not saying that that happened this week. It did not. I made soup. I made so much soup this week. None of it was with the help of my mom. But my mom is taking my car out today to get all the tests done so I can sell it. And this is exactly what they don't teach you in school in Belgium or at school in Belgium. What they teach you is don't ask for help. Don't be too loud. Don't ask too many questions. And later on in life, you're like, hello, I'm totally broke. Let's not ask anyone about this. Oh, I don't know how to do this. I'll just ignore this problem. Boom, you lose your house. How stupid is it that one of the most useful things we have as like most important things as a human being is the sense of belonging, the sense of community. And we get actively discouraged from asking questions and asking for help in school. It's just stupid. So third skill they don't teach you at school is opening up to help, opening up to being wrong, opening up to not being able to do it all, which is a very concerning thing for all of us high-achieving entrepreneurs. We struggle with asking for help, but if you think about who you want to be, if you want to be a multimillionaire, you think about the greats in the world, do you think they got there by never asking for help, by not having any support? Of course not. They have coaches, they have trainers, they have friends, they have spouses helping them, being there for them. So whenever I feel myself going back to that, I'll do it alone, I think about the fact, is this my higher self speaking? Is this the person I want to become? And if you want to become someone, you got to start behaving like that person. And that person opens up to asking for help. Definitely a skill they don't teach you at school. At least not in Belgian school. Whenever I say anything about schools, I get these messages from people like, oh, but this school was great. Yeah, and 99% of schools suck. Boom. I'm not saying teachers suck. I'm saying the establishment and the structure is not super. I'm saying everything sucks. And I know I have one person in my company who, if she hears this, she's going to be like, Amy, you're not supposed to say schools suck. You're not supposed to tear everything down. Sorry, Caroline, I did it. I was very unhappy in school. I absolutely hated going to school. Most interesting people I've met so far did not have a great time at school. It's just because I wasn't made to follow all of those rules, although I am a rule follower. It's just so bad for your energy if you think about it. As a kid, you're so impressionable, you're a sponge, you literally just soak up everything they say, and then they put people in charge of you who are already sometimes overworked or who don't have proper guidance from their own leadership in the schools, and then they are teaching you how to grow up and become a human being. We're delegating the education of our kids. There's just a lot of things a little bit messed up with it. I know that we should be very grateful for our school system, so I don't want to fully tear it down. I'm not talking to certain individuals, although I did have a couple of really shitty teachers. I'm more talking to what I think the biggest problem is, that in school, It's what I started this episode with, is you do not learn what you need in life. Let's look at money. How come so many of us have gone to school from the moment we were 3 years old until we were 18, and we graduate and we have no clue what taxes are? We have no clue what VAT is and what it means. We have no clue how to save or invest money. I think it is a literal disgrace for schools all over the world that you do not teach your kids of the country to deal with money, which is going to be the biggest stress factor in their later lives. I think it is a disgrace that we don't teach kids about relationships and communication as well. But I think that's still fairly subjective. But what is VAT? What are taxes? This is literally a definition that we could teach our kids. Instead, what you do in school is you learn all of these definitions of mathematical formulas that make no sense, and you don't get what they mean, and there's like a bunch of weird symbols. I didn't get them when I was 12. But you don't learn what taxes are. That's just such a shame. It could benefit so many of us. For example, every year you have to fill out your tax report. You don't learn that in school, yet every kid will have to do this at some point in their life. I literally don't get this. So all of this is obviously why I've been working on creating my own school. And what I want to do is I'm working on creating a school that will give you the business skills you didn't learn in earlier life. Like, we teach you what you didn't learn at school. And it's going to start out with being for business, but my biggest dream is to also make it a business school for kids, to maybe in the end it won't just be a business school, but it will become a business and more school, maybe also health, life, relationships. But what we're going to start out with is we're actually building a school. I don't even have a name yet. And it's just going to be for entrepreneurs to learn the shit you didn't learn anywhere else, to get you the support and the help you need, because you can't ask anyone else. So if you're curious about that, by the way, I am working very hard on it with the entire team. The thing we're working hardest on is looking for a name, because the message is kind of there. The structure is there. We're working on the products, and we want to make it so that you can go to the school, online school, and then you're like, oh, hello, my name is Amy. I'm in this phase of my business and I need help with this. And then we just give you everything you need. And that might be coaching, courses, templates, free resources, guides. And it's just going to be your hub, your vault where you can live as an entrepreneur. So if you want to get on the waitlist for when we launch and we actually reveal the name, you can do that through fastforwardamy.com/school waitlist. I'll add that in the description. I'll also add it in the Excel file where my content strategist prepared a different link for me, and I just changed that link. She was like, we don't have a name yet. Figure it out. I was supposed to say that in this episode. I was going to make it such a great episode that we could host for new people of the podcast. Now I'm just... Sometimes I feel like I might only be making sense to myself. Should I take myself more seriously? I feel like I shouldn't. It's just a monologue. Did you know I do all of the podcasts in one take? Now you do. So what have we had so far? We've talked about your zone of genius, boundaries. The other thing I added about asking for help. Then we talked about money and how stupid it is that you don't learn about taxes in school. Maybe you did and you're like, wow, this is a shit podcast. Well, cheers to you. And then I have two more things that they don't teach you at school that I think is such a shame. They don't teach you to take risks. You have to follow the rules, do exactly as you're told, don't take risks. And I think that we are so risk averse, especially in Belgium. Sometimes I look at Belgium, and now feel free to hate me. I look at Belgium as being a gray box where everyone is like, let's stay small, let's play it safe. Let's save a bunch of money. And then sometimes I have people telling me, I want to start my business and I'm so passionate, but I'm afraid to take the risk of quitting my job. I'm like, well, do you have some money to survive if your business doesn't become profitable yet? Yeah, I have some money, but taking a risk. And I'm like, well, but being employed somewhere also has risks. I mean, did you see how many big companies just laid off thousands of people? It's not risk-free to have a job either. But it just, be careful, don't take risks, do exactly as I say. We don't get taught to take risks, but again, the greats in the world, they definitely took risks. Do I mean jump off a moving train. No, I mean, dare to bet on yourself. So maybe it's not as much that we don't get taught to take risks, but we don't get taught to believe in ourselves and to bet on ourselves. Bet on yourself. That is a great name for a podcast. Bet on yourself. In the meantime, I'm sitting here, as I said, in the studio, different formats. Sometimes I'm by myself, sometimes I'm with my team. Right now, Annelies and Megan are here with me. They're having the time of their life, looking at me, grinning. They've also, this is one of the things no one knows, and I think it's probably an HR thing you're not supposed to say or do, but they've all seen me in my underwear so many times. It's kind of like an onboarding ritual. All of a sudden there's a photo shoot or a podcast recording. I'm just taking off my clothes and they're like, oops, yeah, this was gonna happen. Never naked though, right? Just the underwear is on. Yeah. A while back, my boyfriend asked me, like, why don't you have any men in your team or on your team? And I'm like, yeah, we want men to be on the team, like, they just don't apply. And then I asked him, how would you feel if Annelies were a guy? Because Annelies spends a lot of time with me. She's the podcast manager and content creator. And he was like, no, forget what I said. I love it that you have no men on your team. You don't get taught to bet on yourself. A reason schools could improve this is, for example, to invest more time on public speaking opportunities, on going against bullying. Because if you're afraid of getting bullied, obviously you're not going to take up space. I think it would be great if people could take up more space, or if in schools maybe there was a creative hour. I know in kindergarten they have this sometimes, like creative hour, and everyone just gets to free draw. How amazing would that be if that would happen later in your life? But we just get ready to be little soldiers of society. You don't get taught to be an entrepreneur at school. You learn all the opposite skills. Don't bet on yourself. Be safe. Don't be loud. Stay silent. Don't ask for help. Don't take risks. Stupid. And last but not least, another skill that you don't get taught is to follow your own rhythm. And this is a big one. This is where a lot of entrepreneurs lose a lot of energy. Also, passionpreneurs or intrapreneurs. I call my team members intrapreneurs because we all more or less follow our own rhythm. No one is obligated to come to the office every day. Our hours are fairly flexible. Obviously, there are some times where I'm calling people. I'm like, hello, please pick up the phone because I'm your boss and I pay you. I rarely tell them I'm your boss, only jokingly. I also talk about them as my team members, not as my personnel. But, you know, in the end, I am the boss, and sometimes I want to be able to reach someone. But there's just a lot of mutual respect going on. But what I want to say is following your own rhythm. This should also be possible more in other types of companies, just as employees, I think. It's that, for example, for me, I thrive when I have half days by myself, half days with people. It's like I need some time to introvert and then I can extrovert. I have Mondays fully at home in my sweatpants working on ideas, and then on Tuesdays I put on decent clothes and I go to the office. But it took me such a long time to be like, hello, I wish to not do meetings every day, because you come from that structure where you just follow the damn structure. So the whole freedom-based life and business message we have been building on in our upcoming business school that has no name is foreign to a lot of people, because you are allowed to move abroad and run a business fully online from Spain. You are allowed to sleep in. I had a conversation with a client earlier today and she said, I don't set an alarm clock ever. I just wake up between 8:30 and 9 and then I start my day working around 10:30. And she said it like, ooh, please, no one hit me. And I'm like, this is great for you. This is your freedom. You're not a morning person. Amazing. She's like, I love sleeping. I'm like, yeah, you do. Sleeping is great for you. If you sleep a lot, you're going to make much easier decisions. So following your own rhythm is definitely something as an entrepreneur you need to open yourself up to. It's not a skill we get taught. You get drilled to become a 9-to-5 worker. But guess what? You don't have to work 9 to 5. You can work 12 to 6, 12 to 1, 11 to 12. 12 to 2, 2 to 4. You get what I mean. I could keep going. Follow your own rhythm. We are not wired to all be 9 to 5 people. You can define however way you want to work and which other skills you want to learn. So all of this, obviously, I don't know if any of this was interesting. I really don't know. I hope so. But all of this and more rants have to do with why I am building a school that has no name. Maybe we should just do a very big survey about the name, but I think it's such a shame that the biggest problems in our adult lives arise because we never got taught the skills to deal with them. The pyramid of Maslow is something we should all live and breathe. Loving physical exercise should be something we get taught. But instead, we get taught to score good grades on the exercises. How much more useful would it be to teach kids to love sports that go well for their body? I'm not a runner, I'm a swimmer. Should have taken me swimming, some other people running. It's a shame. So it's on us to do this, and this is what my team and I are committing to creating a school that can impact entrepreneurs globally to build that sentence. That's why my team and I are building a school that will impact entrepreneurs all over the world so they can build their own freedom-filled life and business to do it their way, not our way. I want you to do everything your way. If you like 9 to 5, go ahead and do 9 to 5. I also said a lot of rude things about Belgium. I want to say happy and proud to be Belgian, but I'm truly not. I have a problem with the mentality. I just think we should all take up more space. So, how about you be super loud today? How about you make a video that your in-laws are gonna hate and that everyone from your high school is gonna gossip about, and you say loud and proud what you love doing, the impact you want to make on the world, and just go after it. If you always think about what other people are gonna think of the stuff you are doing or not doing, you're never living your fullest life. And I think one of the biggest things in my mindset shifted is when I realized whether I do something or not, people are going to gossip about it. Might as well do something worthwhile that gives them a reason to gossip about it. On that note, I'm going to leave you because I have another podcast to record. Haha, for next week. And this is episode 182. You know, on the website, you can always find every episode. Megan, our copywriter, puts a lot of effort into those articles. So if you go to FastForwardAmy.com/182, you will find the article and the links. And I would love to welcome you in my brand new business school if we ever find a name for it. And you're going to be the first to know what the name is if you sign up through FastForwardAmy.com/school waitlist. And obviously, when we open, we're going to have a bunch of bonuses, discounts, and stuff for you to start discovering the school as an entrepreneur who is always growing. Okay? Have a happy day, and I wish you all the world. Bye.